This is Wings on the Air.
Hi, welcome to Wings on the Air. My name is Ann Edenfield Sweet. I'm the Executive Director and founder of Wings for Life International. And today we're going to learn all about ways of interacting and getting more engaged with our children and their schools. And we have two experts with us today. I'm really excited. We've got Nancy Davenport and Dale Hagen, and they are going to be here, and they are our experts and going to teach us about this. And you know, we've been talking about the importance of feeling welcomed in the schools. And so I'd like you to first address that, because if the children are coming into the school, the parents are bringing them, and they have to feel welcome. So talk about why that's such an important thing.
Yes, you know, that's changed in the last few, maybe 5-6 years. We used to have welcome signs out everywhere, and you're welcome to come into school, however. But because of the bad things of shootings on campuses and so forth, we have to protect the children. And so sometimes people think that the welcome sign has been put down, but it hasn't been put down. It's just you have to funnel through and you have to come through and be checked out. But schools are still welcome. We still want you, we still love you, but it just seems a little bit different. So sometimes I think it's helpful for the parents to talk with the school and say, you know, I didn't really feel that welcome or something, and talk with the principal, talk with the parent liaison at the school, whoever you can talk with that you feel have a trusting relationship with, and talk about ways to make that school feel more welcome, even if you've had to put up, you know, fences and bars and things like that.
Yeah, so Nancy, share a little bit. What are the common experiences that somebody going into the school for the first time is going to encounter now? You talked about some bars and fences, but share more about what that means.
Well, once you park, you should be able to start to see signs that will direct you to the office where you need to sign in, so that the staff there knows that you are indeed an okay visitor. And from there, you can get a map, and on your way, sometimes they'll even escort you to the classroom, and hopefully with open arms and happy that you're there.
And it seems to me the few times that I've been in public schools lately that you've got to sign in too.
Yes, you do.
And so, okay, so you sign in, and sometimes they give you a badge, sometimes they don't.
They should be giving you a badge. When it says visitor, sometimes it's actually a sticky badge that will actually have a picture of you, but it's just accountability that you are indeed okay to be on campus for safety for all people, including those darling children.
So really the schools want everybody to be there. They
Yes.
just have policies and procedures in place now. So, well, that's great news.
Yes.
So that
Yes.
means everybody is going to be welcome to
Yes.
come into the
Yes.
schools. Just do it the right way and follow the right procedures.
Right.
Well, now let's start from the youngest ones. What can you do? What recommendations do you have to help children and parents to start with those preschool years? Any recommendations?
Well, you just start from the time before they're born. If you can read to them and sing to them and expose them to music before birth and then after birth, just keep that baby in eye contact. You're establishing trust. Play with that baby, play with their feet, play with their toes, dance with them, sing to them, talk to them, really engage. I've seen before where parents had babies here with a bottle and they were looking at their cell phone. No, no, no. Engage, make that trust with the eye contact, and have fun with your baby.
Well, and Dale, you brought, well, both Nancy and Dale brought all kinds of fun things here to share with us. Tell me about the ducks.
Well, bath time stories. Instead of just taking a bath, you know, you have bath time stories. So you could, my son who has a grandson, he would like talk, you know, and he's talking as the duck, and his son is talking back, and they're telling a little story about floating in the water and what is the duck up to. It's all those little conversations, but the most important thing is smiling. And if parents are upset with each other and having a fight, it shouldn't be in front of the children, because children take that in, and it leads to adverse childhood experiences over time. So it's important that the children at least see lots of fun, lots of activity. You cannot spoil a little child. You can't. You can give them all the love in the world, all the smiles, all the happiness. They can't be spoiled.
Well, that is great news. And yes, I have 4 boys, and so I do know the importance of all of this. And so that's so important. Learning does not start when you go into school. But once you do go into school, then how can these families start to develop a partnership with the teachers, with the staff at the school? What recommendations do you have there?
Well, they need to meet their child their teacher right away. Go in and say, I'm this child's parent. I'm very anxious about what's going on. Can you help me know what the expectations are, and then how I, as the parent, can help you, the teacher. In doing so, it helps de-escalate. It lets both the parent and the teacher know that they are in partnership and they want to do everything they can to work together for that kiddo. Then one of the next things a parent can do is to get to know the school personnel. Who is the principal? Who's the secretary? Who is the librarian? People in the school, so that they can go to those people if they feel like they need to advocate or they're interested in helping in the library. They can get involved that way and start building that partnership.
Great. Now, Dale, do you recommend doing that like the first day of school, when they do the parent-teacher open house? At what time, or probably all the time, but share us your advice there.
I mean, any time is the right time.
Okay.
Because not every time is the right time for parents. Lots of times schools have organized things around the school schedule, from 7:30 to 3:30, and so maybe they have something at 5 o'clock at night. But we have a lot of parents that are working 2 jobs, or shift work, or things like that. They want to come, they want to meet the teacher, and so it's important that sometimes maybe they just reach out in a very friendly email or a note to the school that said, I would have really loved to come, but I'm working during that time. Is it possible to have a morning session, meet some people in the morning and come to school when I'm not working? And I think that's really important too, because we have a lot of disengaged parents, we think. They're not disengaged. They just haven't been engaged by the school because they're on a different time frame in their work. And a lot of people are at work where if you don't show up, or you say, well, I'm going to go to the teacher conference, I'm going to go to this. And it's like, do you want to have a job? And so some people don't have that privilege of being able to go out and do these things that they want to. And so it's important that the parents reach out, but also the school reaches out to know that those parents want to be there, they can't. You've heard the conversations sometimes, teachers will say, only 50% of the people came to the parent conference. It's like, well, only 50% of the people could get to your parent conference during the time that you set up.
Interesting way to, yeah.
Yeah. So we have to look at it both ways, but parents have to also advocate for themselves and say, school, I would love to come, but the only time I can come is 7 in the morning.
Now, when I think about this, and 50%, you're right. They're working, they have different schedules, they have other obligations. But there are also some parents, we have people that have dropped out of school. Wings works with families of prisoners and low-income folks, and people maybe that haven't even graduated from school, and maybe they didn't have a really good relationship with their school growing up through the years. So they sometimes, when I'm talking to them, I almost have a fear of the school and the teachers and the principals. So what recommendations do you have for trying to overcome that and trying to work with the teachers and the principals?
Well, it starts with feeling like they're capable, that they can do it. And that's when a parent can reach out and maybe to the school social worker, the school counselor, saying, my skills might not be up to par and I would like more education myself. That can happen through the schools, as well as teachers can help parents understand their role in whatever the assignment is, instead of just giving it to them, just helping the parents, like coaching the parents through, this is our expectation and this is how you can help. So that the parent starts to feel like they can help. And then the more they feel that efficacy, they can build and then actually maybe volunteer in the classroom or help in the library. then be more a part of the school setting. Because we know that parents who are involved or families who are involved with their kids' education have better attendance, have better grades, and have graduate at a higher rate.
Yes, I know that's true. We talk about it all the time with the ACEs, the Adverse Childhood Experiences that you already mentioned, Dale. But if you've got, okay, let's just say we've got a dad that has come out of prison, mom coming out of prison. They don't feel so good about themselves. They don't have that self-esteem, Nancy, that you're talking about. What recommendations do you have for them in order to encourage them to get involved in their child's life at school?
That's tough, and I think Nancy's been working, for a couple of years directly with family liaisons, trying to help them to reach out. It really takes the school sometimes to reach out, because if you're disenfranchised or you had a terrible experience in school, you don't have that confidence to go to school. And we have to reach out, but we can't reach out one time and say, well, I called you and you didn't come. You reach out in a variety of ways, and the school has to reach out, because that's our job, to keep reaching out until someone can make contact. Someone, especially family liaisons, because they don't have that, they're not the principal, at the school that, maybe you're afraid of, whatever. It's that nice, friendly face, and you keep calling, and you keep calling, and eventually, I think people will come around to feeling that they could talk to somebody at school. And once you get the conversation started, then you can build on that conversation and maybe bring in a teacher or two, because some teachers are just more friendly, and just naturally they are, and then you start to build that up, and that creates that situation of trust, and then I think they're willing to come to school. But it's not easy when you've been out in prison or out homeless, or a lot of the situations that people are in without money and so forth. You don't, what you're wearing, I don't have clothes that look great, I'm in raggy clothes, because that's all I have. And I think the schools have to realize that we have to take people where they are and help them and make sure that they have a voice at school, with not only, with the principal, with the teachers and so forth. Their voice is very important.
Well, so what I'm hearing is that regardless of how anybody feels, their children are the most important thing.
Yes.
They should reach out, and if they don't feel comfortable with the principal or even the teacher, to find somebody
right.
in that school system that can help them to help their child. Because
Absolutely.
I don't know any parent that doesn't want to help their children, really.
Right.
And so if you're listening to this, you've got to reach out, and it's up to you to care for that child, because you are the biggest advocate for your own child. Well, now, share some practical things. So if you're teaching at home, and you brought all these fun things, so share some of these tools that you as teachers, and you teach our educators how to do this. How can parents work with their kids and teach them things at home?
Okay, so to start with, when you're reading, you want to, I think I brought some Mother Goose, but
Yeah.
Mother Goose, nursery rhymes are so important for children, and to be read to when children are young. They certainly have pictures, and there's rhyming that helps establish language as well as cadence of language, so that kids can start hearing patterns. And then from there, as kids get a little older, you can always read them rhyming, and Dr. Seuss is very good about rhyming. So again, kids hear patterns, and from rhyming and patterns, then kids are starting to learn to read. When kids start to learn to read, really be involved, be interested, sit with them and help them read some of these very first readers. It's exciting time for children when they're starting to read. You can talk to them about what they think is going to happen given what they see on the page. Who's an illustrator? What's the difference between illustrators and authors? And then as kids get a little further along, you might work with them on some poetry. And this is Shel Silverstein, Where the Sidewalk Ends. And here's a silly thing that you can talk to kids about for understanding vocabulary. This is called Ridiculous Rose. Her mama said, "Don't eat with your fingers." "Okay, said ridiculous Rose. So she ate with her toes. So you would talk to a kid about, well, what's ridiculous about that? What does that mean? And really enhance your language and vocabulary. So read to your kids all the way through. And as the kids get older, at bedtime, I hope that you have established a routine. But at bedtime, read to your kids. Before they go to bed. Routines are so important. And as kids get older, like 4th, 5th graders, where you could have 2 of the same book, you could read, they could read, and share that delight together. So reading, just keep on reading. Keep on reading. What would you say, Dale?
Well, could continue on that book idea. The people in my family, I love family books. So once you've read this one happens to be from Sesame Street, talking about family, you make your own family book. And the kids, I mean, kids' art is amazing. It's always like so cool. And so they make their own books about the family because you want to think about what that family does. So if the dad is a carpenter, then that's what you want to put in there. Because I did, when I was in the classroom, I had all the parents do what they like to do, what they do for a living. And we had all these parents demonstrate stuff and, you know, like, people being ferrymen and just every kind of different thing. And it's like, wow, I didn't know what that was. And so the child then moves from here to way up here because, like, you know, this is my dad or this is my mom and this is what they do. And everybody in the class listened to that. And that was so important. It's about self-esteem. So making family books is a really great thing. If you are out in the country, you want to talk about farm animals, and we've got a lot of people, different animals all around the world. Talk about the animals and what they do and, you know, how you work with them. And of course, there's always these things about a little bit scary because kids like to be a little bit scared. And Maurice Sendak wrote this fantastic book called Where the Wild Things Are. And the illustrations are absolutely fantastic. But I mean, it's what the kids like, you know, it's a little bit on the scary side, and they love that kind of stuff too. So scary stories, as long as they're not too scary, especially stories and not necessarily movies, I think are great for kids. When it comes to TV, I think, you know, we have excellent TV in most of the world. We have PBS, the public broadcasting, and they do a fantastic job of presenting some really great things that you can talk about. But not to have your child just sit there and watch TV. Talk about what you saw. Talk about the sharks that you just saw and where they were and, you know, where they live and so forth. You may have never been to the ocean. Or maybe you live right on the ocean. But, you know, in New Mexico, here, we don't have an ocean. But some places around the world, you know, sharks are an everyday occurrence. So you want to talk about those things. The other things to do are like measurement. From littler kids to all the way into, you know, upper grades kids. This box and this box of cereal, you know, like, which one do you get more? Which one has more ounces? What's the size of the boxes? How do you compare? And then if you get into older kids, there's this side panel. And on that side panel, you've got all kinds of, like, how much sugar is in this one? 9 grams, okay. 15%. How much sugar is in this one? Let's see, let's take a look. Sugars are harder to read. But they're on here, I think it's like 5 grams. So anyway, different levels in sugar. You know, you can take a look at that. You know, again, measuring. You know, you probably have these tools, and Nancy's got a tool over there too. You always have things to measure. So which way, you know, you're measuring the sides, and then of course for the other kids, there's volume. So what is the volume in each of these? And you can use your measuring to find out. Nancy brought this big, nice yardstick. It's great to keep track of, like, you know, how tall am I now? And put it maybe on the wall or someplace, and every, you know, month or so, check again and see, how much taller have I gotten, you know? I think my boys were all excited when they became taller than I was. And Nancy? Some other measurement ones? I know there's this. Strings are great, you know. How long is it between the two of us here? What is the distance? And then measure it with a string. And then of course you've got, once you have strings, you can cut up the strings and put them in order. Like what's the tallest, what's the shortest, make a pattern. You can do all kinds of things with strings. So you don't have to spend a lot of money to have the things that, to do. If you're a carpenter and you have nails at home, well then, what is the distance in nails? And you can actually measure with the nails how long it is in so many nails. How long is it in so many paper clips? How long is it in pennies? The favorite thing that I like to do with maybe first, second, and third grade students is it's like, well, if I'm going to go to the store and I have $1 and I'm going to buy something for 37 cents, how much change am I going to get back? And just with a small amount of change, you can do that. Or you can, maybe you're working on place value, and you can talk about ones and tens and hundreds and so forth with coins. So even if you only have $1 in coins, you've got a whole treasure of things to work with just with $1.
Well, I love all these ideas. I mean, what fun.
Right.
And learning happens so easily. You're cooking. You've got your measuring spoons and your cups, and
Right.
you've got,
Right.
how much liquid are you going to put in? How long is something? The pennies, adding up 10 pennies, and that's equal to a dime, or a 5 pennies a nickel, and 2 nickels a dime. I mean, all those practical things that would be so easy and so much fun for parents to do. And I think the key thing is getting the parents to know that, hey, I've got something I can teach my kids, and it could be fun. Now, I know that there's talk about the reading at 3rd grade. And I remember being at a conference once, and somebody from Juvenile Justice in Texas stood up and said that they do a reading test in Texas, 3rd grade, and for people that don't read at a certain level, they start budgeting money to build prison beds in 3rd grade.
Wow.
Yeah, 3rd grade.
Wow.
Because they know you learn to read through 3rd grade. After 3rd grade, you have to read to learn. So let's talk about reading and why that is such an important thing. I mean, I've just shared some statistics here, but from your perspective, being the professionals, about reading in the classroom.
So I'm going to defer the librarian.
Well, reading is critical, and as you talked about, the stages of reading from when the child is born. Start reading then, just short little pieces that you're reading and talking and communicating, and then get involved. If you have a hard time with reading yourself, get involved with somebody else that can help you out. Talk to the teacher. Sometimes it's hard to be honest, but talk to the teacher and say, this is an area that I struggled in. What will you recommend? Talk to a librarian in a library and ask them, what would you recommend? What can you recommend? What books could I take? Because remember, the libraries are pretty much free, and the people who work there are experts too, and they're free. So, and again, back to not spending a lot of money, but you have these books, and you work on the reading, and then you look at what the teacher is doing, have those conversations with the teacher, even by phone, by Skype, by Zoom, whatever method is working for you, and see what you need to work on in reading. I mean, but it's a practice too. Comprehension is important, where you're learning what's in the book and how to understand it. But fluency is really important too, and fluency is just plain practicing. So you have to practice a lot. Some students have to practice a lot more than others. And you think, well, if you look at the difference in your children, if you have different children, some of them grow at this super rapid rate and they're reading like crazy, and then you're going, oh my gosh, the next one's way behind. Well, then you spend more time. And some of the kids would tell me, well, no one wants to listen to me read at home. And I said, do you have a pet? Well, yeah. Do you have a dog? Well, dogs love to listen to stories. So if you have a dog sitting there, the dog will listen to your story. You can read the story over and over and over again. And once you get into the fluency piece, you start to have more expression. The more expression you have, the more the dog's eyes will look up and it'll look at you. So there's great ways of practicing at home. And you can't get enough practice at school. But at home, on the bus, maybe you can read in the car, maybe you can't. But wherever you can, you just want to practice and read out loud. And if your other brother and sister say, "You're reading too much," it's like, "No, you're not." And tell them, "Hey, I'm trying to be a great reader," and give them, the answer that will maybe help them to understand why you're spending so much time reading.
Yeah, well, reading is so vitally important. Anything you want to add to that, Nancy?
Is that reading really is the foundation for all learning. Once you learn to read, you can figure out how to read a map, and you can read a textbook, and you can read mathematical equations, and you are then opened up to the world of creativity and history and all that there is. So reading is foundational, and it's just a joy. And just first grade teachers, when those kiddos are reading it, there's nothing better.
So the important thing I'm hearing is get your children reading.
Yes.
Read, have them tell stories. At Wings for Life, we bring in the dogs too. They read to the dogs, so I know how important that is. Dogs aren't going to tell you mispronounce something.
That's
the important thing is that you're just reading and having fun with that. Audiobooks, I love audiobooks,
Yes.
and my boys in the car, I used to play audiobooks all the time. And one thing that I suggest to our folks is to have an audiobook and have the printed book right there. Any of the Dr. Seuss things, it's so simple, or have a matching book. We recommend for people in prison, Dad have a book, have the matching book at home, and Dad or Mom can read that book, and the children can read it at home and hear Mom and Dad.
That's it.
So, well, this has been a great joy to have us with you, have you with us today. This has been wonderful because education is so key, and schools are not scary. Schools are friendly places where we want our kids to go. We want them to be there and to graduate. So I want to thank you so much for being with us today. This is Wings on the Air. I hope you'll come back and be listening to more of our programming, because we're trying to bring the best practices with the best speakers out to you. Thanks for being with us today.
Wings on the Air is sponsored by Rainstar Capital Group.